It's an absolutely jaw-dropping day in the world of Magic the Gathering. Mystery Booster 2 spoilers have just revealed a Phyrexianized Eldrazi. But even crazier than that is the introduction of the Power 9 using alchemy cards. We also have a little bit of secret layer shame to cover too.
Magic. I am a wizard! History. I'm an old wizard! The magic historian. My bones hurt.
Greetings! Owners of fine luxury cardboard rectangles, my friends. I hope the day finds you well and you have no heart conditions, because we are here for a stupefying edition of Mega Magic News. The stuff going on with Mystery Boosters 2 is pure insanity. Even someone like me who's been around for 30 years in the game can't believe what's going on. But before we get into the Mystery Booster craziness, we do have some other news to talk about. Secret Layer Shame being one of those items. But before that, I just want to let you know some amazing news. I am going to be featured in a TCG. My likeness will be gracing fine luxury cardboard rectangles, thanks to this video's sponsor, Paragon. Paragon Monsters and Mayhem is a fast-paced tactical TCG that has just launched. It took less than an hour for it to be fully back. You take on the role of an epic Paragon. Your goal? To destroy your opposition. You get to wield the powers of order and chaos, life and death. Paragon features an epic range of creatures, spells, relics, and more. You're given a number of Paragons to select from, and they will determine your deck's identity and capabilities. Paragon is a simple game to learn, but based on the number of cards and the different abilities that are available, there's a lot of depth to the game. I'm going to be doing a live stream with the creators of Paragon where we make a card in my likeness. It's gonna be a lot of fun. You should be there. Make sure that when you back this Kickstarter, you use my special link because that helps my channel. There's no point in waiting. Go back to Kickstarter today. So, like I said, we'll be doing a live stream where we figure out all the aspects of how including me in the game will work. It's going to be a lot of fun, and I will make sure to announce that live stream so that you guys can come and hang out. I am stoked. Now, moving on to the magical news. We're going to talk about secret layers. If you didn't already hear, they're doing a D&D secret layer. Not enough information has been revealed about that for me to start really getting into it, but I thought I'd let you know in case it's something that you're hyped about. But the main thing I wanted to touch on with secret layers was secret layer shame. The idea is Wizards of the Coast is supposed to give us hype bonus cards, like the crazy Snapcaster Miku, right? Or the Command Tower from the Miku Secret Lair. Something that fits into the theme, but unfortunately, because they're so greedy, they gamify the whole Secret Lair situation. And once again, we have incredibly disappointing Secret Lair bonus cards in the form of multiple elves. So, when it comes to the Bloomborough Showcase Secret Lair, instead of getting some kind of fun animal, nope, you get Pollen Bright Druid. So it's like, so let me get this straight. Bloomborough, the world where there's literally no humanoids at all, you're giving us just some random elf as the bonus card. And we're just like, sure, isn't that great? You gotta love it. And then they did the same thing with the Andrew McLean Secret Lair, where instead of giving us a sketch version of one of the cards, they're just like, here's a Garbo Reclamation Sage, haha. Like, it's incredibly frustrating that they keep doing this, man. They have not learned their lesson to just give us the goodness. Secret layers ultimately are mostly struggling as a product. So things like the Miku Secret Lair, they might have actually been able to get away with it more because people are so hyped about Miku, but those ones got multiple specialized variants, whereas these ones, oh, do you like Bloomborough? Well, I guess suck an egg, buddy. Here's your elf, right? It's not okay. It's not okay. Now, we need to talk about the Mystery Booster situation. Wizards' new Mystery Booster set is jaw-dropping, like I said at the very beginning of the video. There were multiple cards where I went, wait, what? The biggest, craziest thing to me is the inclusion of alchemy cards. So these are cards that were created for Arena because they don't really work in the physical form, right? But Wizards has just said, meh, whatever, you best figure it out. It genuinely makes me very curious. The first card we're going to look at makes me super curious as to how they intend to sort out the whole Power 9 situation. That being said, let's look at the cards. Buckle up, my friends. We are in for one wild ride. We're starting out with Oracle of the Alpha. And at first glance, it's 1 blue and 2 for a 2/3 flyer. Nothing too crazy there. Down here, we have the ability, whenever it attacks, scry 1. Again, nothing too crazy. But right above it is the paragraph that is firmly rooted in Crazy Town. When Oracle of the Alpha enters the battlefield, conjure the Power 9 into your library, then shuffle. If for some reason you don't know what the Power 9 are, they are the original 5 Moxes from the first printing of Magic: Black Lotus, Time Walk, Time Twister, and Ancestral Recall, the mega powerhouse cards of the earliest days of the game. And this is a card that says, hey, grab all 9, make copies of them, and shuffle them into your deck. Now your brain might be going, wait, how does this work? Well, originally, this was from Magic the Gathering Arena. This is an alchemy card where the game will create these conjured copies and pop them into your deck. It remains to be seen what Wizards intends for us to do when it comes to playing with this in a physical card. Are they actually planning on making token copies that are representative of all 9 of those spells and including them in the mystery boosters? Are they going to do some kind of weird side secret layer where you can get those 9 cards? Now, I want to point out, look down here. It's got the acorn symbol. So that lets you know you can't use this in proper constructed play. It's not meant for any kind of legal tournament use, anything like that. This is the equivalent of a silver bordered card. And it shows that Wizards putting the little acorn symbol down there worked wonders, because at first glance you go, this is crazy. How can this be a regular Magic card? Well, technically, it's not. Wizards used to do all of this stuff in silver bordered, so you know at first glance, oh, I can't play with this in my regular decks. But they're like, no, we don't like people actually going like that and really understanding that they're not meant to be that. So why don't we just put this subtle little symbol down here and let players argue about it so more people will buy our cards and can just have bad feels later. I am not a fan of the change to the acorn symbol. And I will say I'm very, very curious to see how they intend to handle this. Are we supposed to just take the cards you would use for double face cards and write the name of the cards on them? It's gotten to the point where Wizards of the Coast expects you, I suppose, to just have a phone on hand to be able to look things up. It is a very bold move on their part to include this, and I'll admit that I haven't fully processed everything that this means. There's a lot of depth to the implications of them taking alchemy cards and putting them into regular Magic, especially considering alchemy caused a lot of ill will on Arena and caused a lot of people to stop playing the game overall. So this is a very, very strange and interesting choice to me. The artwork is absolutely epic, right? You have the bird wizard standing here with his mystical tome. I love the whole chain that's connected to this bracer on his wrist, the same way almost someone would keep a briefcase full of valuables with a handcuff, right? And you can see these are indeed valuables. You've got the Black Lotus and the Moxes represented here. And actually, if you take a look, you can see there's an hourglass for Time Twister as well. I'm not sure if all 9 of the Power 9 are represented here. Maybe this is a larger piece of artwork because you can see the chain flows downwards and back up. So perhaps the other things we're not seeing are listed here, but it is pretty amazing overall in terms of the artwork. I definitely dig it. And there's a part of me that totally has a nostalgic vibe when it comes to those old school power cards, because I've been playing since the early 90s and I had all those cards in my deck, right? So this is the craziest thing so far from not modern, what am I talking about? Mystery boosters. There's so many different names for sets now, and they put them out every week, so it's hard to keep them all straight. Let's move on to the next card. We've got Nalathni Dragon Another one I was surprised to see. Nalathni Dragon was originally a Dragon Con promo that you could only get by going to one particular convention back in the 90s. But Wizards actually heard the outcry from people and they ended up including it with, it was either Scry, Inquest, Duelist, one of the early magazines, you could get a copy of this. And I remember absolutely loving it. On the surface, it's not really that strong. 2 red and 2 for a 1/1 flyer with banding. It's neat to have a flying bander creature because, first of all, banding is rare when it comes to most creatures across Magic, but extremely rare on flying creatures. And when it comes to it, banding is mostly the domain of white. And so seeing it on a red card was a real rarity. It also has fire breathing with a limitation. So you can pay 1 red to give it +1/+0 until end of turn. But if you do that 4 or more times in a turn, you have to sacrifice it. So he's got the same limitations as a Dragon Whelp. If you make him breathe too much fire, it burns him out. Now, I have to admit, the original artwork for Nalathni Dragon is much better. It shows a tiny little almost fairy dragon that's floating along this crazy tribesman with a spear, whereas this showcases that this does not look like a 1/1 dragon. Look at what's in its mouth even. It's got some kind of prey that looks like a cow or something, and we're to believe this is a 1/1 dragon. Clearly, they had this dragon artwork kicking around in their art vault and went, okay, we've got to use it. So on one hand, I really like Nalathni Dragon. I'm a sucker for it. On the other hand, this card is very dissonant when you look at it overall. The artwork is great, don't get me wrong. The dragon looks epic, but I mean, look at the castle that he's flying up above and the birds in the background for perspective. This was meant to be at least a 4/4, if not a 6/6. There's no way this would be a 1/1 anywhere other than, let's say, like Segovia, okay? Because everything's tiny on Segovia. Either way, I thought it was really interesting, so I included it. Then we've got Future Sight on the Future Sight frame, and I just included it because it's a Future Sight, and you get to see how the mana symbols work. We talked about this in the last video, but you can see with the 3 blue pips there, how it all aligns in the little slots on the Future Sight, and you can actually see that that curves down under. So theoretically, they could have something with like 10 different mana symbols in it, right? And this is part of a cool story. Ixodor is a very interesting character. He creates a chroma out of essentially pure dream stuff, and you can see different aspects of his life being shown on these different panels. So it's a pretty cool card, and I mean, back in the day, it was way more powerful. By today's standards, it's really not that strong, but it is a neat card. After that, we've got Horned Turtle. I have to admit, this was the most astounding thing to see that they were going to go ahead and include in mystery boosters. I looked at it and went, wait, what? What's going on here? Is this for real? Like, I had to look down at the line here to see the date on it where it said 2024 and I go, it is. They were including this Horned Turtle. This blows my mind because this calls out how awful Wizards of the Coast was in the past. Now, first of all, I'll just tell you what a Horned Turtle is. It's 1 blue and 2 for a 1/4 with no abilities, right? So this down here is just flavor text. This is a vanilla creature with no abilities. But the reason this is crazy is this is the Chinese printing of Horned Turtle. The original Horned Turtle had different artwork, but Wizards had the artwork recommissioned so they could remove a black person from it and replace them with a white person so that they could sell this to Chinese markets. Like, that's literally what they did. It's essentially the opposite of what they did with Aragorn in Lord of the Rings, right? And considering how hypersensitive Wizard seems to anything that might offend people, the changing of tribal to typal, all these different changes, I sat there and went, why on earth would they pick out this emblem of their corporate basic, like, not caring whatsoever about people? It's a blatant indicator. Like, remember always that everything that Wizards of the Coast says about how progressive they are and how much they care about people is all a lie, and they only care about money. And this is evidence. Back in the day, they made this change because they wanted to sell it to a particular market, and I figured out why it was included in this because I sat down and I went, why on earth would they include this? And then I went, Money. The answer is always money. So I looked it up. I'm like, this has to be a valuable common. And lo and behold, this is worth more than $10. So it got included because of its reprint equity, even though it's literally an emblem of how they don't care about people and will change anything in the name of making money. This was more astounding to me on one level than them putting alchemy cards in there. I was like, what are you thinking? And then I went, ching, ching, dollar signs in the eyes. That's what they're thinking. Classic Wizards. Moving on, we've got Whiteout. This one's just funny. The original Whiteout shows a snow owl caught in like a snowstorm, but with this one they went, what if we just whited out the artwork? What if we just went, we're just like, that's fun. This isn't a great card. 1 green and 1, all creatures lose flying until end of turn. Sack a snowland to return it from your graveyard to your hand. It's not like this is an epic card, but it is a funky card. I remember using it back in the day, and the fact that they did like, they're just going full on memitude here, right? This is full on circle action. Anyways, moving on to the next card. Now we're going to talk about some interesting cards from the actual playtest variations that have different abilities that don't exist in Magic but are very curious, and some of them could actually work. And in the future, we might see them on regular cards. So this is Don't Worry About It. A blue, a green, and 1, enchantment aura, enchant card in your hand. This aura remains on the battlefield. If you play enchanted card or it otherwise leaves your hand, put this aura into the graveyard. And it says enchanted card costs 1 less to cast. When you cast enchanted card, copy it. So this is very weird. It's like you let your opponent know it's coming, right? The question is, does the card that you indicate have to be shown to your opponent face up, or do you just take the card in your hand, put it face down under the enchantment, or do you just have to somehow indicate it? The furthermost right card in my hand will be the card this applies to. That's why it's not really currently feasible as a regular Magic card. You'd have to be like, reveal a card from your hand and then hit this condition, right? Like, so it's definitely an interesting ability and pretty strong too. It speeds up your card, like whatever it is you're going to cast, it speeds it up by a turn by making it cost 1 less mana and gives you a copy of it. So there's a lot going on with this card. The artwork just shows a safe hanging above somebody reclining. Oh, don't worry about it. Nothing's going to go wrong. And then snap, the rope drops, and apparently a second safe comes as well. After that, we've got Kozilek Completed, which answers a big question that people have about the Eldrazi and the Phyrexians. Would the Phyrexians win against the Eldrazi? Can the Eldrazi be completed? Now, because this is a playtest card, you can't accept this as canon. And as far as I'm concerned, when it comes to the Eldrazi, because they're these massive beings that dwell within the Blind Eternities, only a fragment of their essence can enter into any plane without destroying it. So even if you could complete an Eldrazi, that would only be the tiniest part of it, and as soon as the Eldrazi withdrew their essence from the plane, they would return to normal. There is zero chance that the entirety of the Eldrazi could be corrupted by Phyrexian influence. But we do get a glimpse at what would happen if we had a completed Eldrazi. So this is Kozilek, the Phyrexian Eldrazi. He costs 2 Phyrexian colorless and 8. So you can pay the 2 colorless with life instead, right? And he's a 12/12. And whenever you cast this spell, each opponent gets 2 poison counters. Then each opponent with more than 2 cards in hands discards cards equal to the difference. So they have to pitch down to only having 2 cards in their hand. And it has Anaya Infect. So it's combining Infect and Annihilator together. Whenever this creature attacks, defending player sacrifices a permanent for each poison counter they have. That's pretty interesting. When he comes out, he gives them 2 poison counters, so he'll operate as if he has Annihilator too. But if you have other creatures with Infect or a way to proliferate, then you're going to get to do a much bigger Annihilation move. And Annihilator is such a brutal ability to deal with. So this is pretty funky. You can see Kozilek has been more mechanized. His crazy tentacle arms are now robo arms, a la Inspector Gadget. Bum-ba-dum-ba-dum, Inspector Kozilek, bum-ba-dum-ba-dum, bum-bum, Phyrexia. All right, so that's fun. I had to include it. Moving on. We've got the Colossal Dreadmar. The Colossal Dreadma, the cool skater Poochie version of Dreadmaw. Dreadmaw is a meme in Magic now, right? So 2 green and 4, 6/6 trample, and you can cast creature cards from your hand as if they were Colossal Dreadmaws. So you pay the 6 mana, they come out as a 6/6 trampler instead of what they would be. So this is not a good card by any stretch of the imagination, but it is ridiculous, so it made it in. Then we've got Terry Pin Turbo Turtle. 1 red, 1 blue, and 2 for a 4/3 legendary turtle athlete. It has flash and haste. You may ignore the words activate only as a sorcery while activating abilities. This is broken. Having the ability to do things at instant speed when they're supposed to be sorcery speed is wild. So many cards that like make your opponent discard cards, for example, can only be activated at sorcery speed, because if you can do discard at instant speed, you can literally do it during their draw phase after they've drawn. So after they go from the upkeep, move into the draw phase, they draw their card. Before you leave the draw phase, you can go discard that card before they get to the main phase. Instant speed discard is incredibly powerful. And that's just one of the many abusable things you can do when you ignore the activate as sorcery restriction, right? This is truly bonkers. You can use this guy as a commander. And I have to admit as well, this card isn't that far from being a regular card. There's not that much to stop them from just printing this on a regular Magic card. They would have to make the casting cost much higher and maybe make it so you can only cast it directly from your hand to have a chance of it not being busted. But with the power creep that we're experiencing in Magic the Gathering, this is theoretically totally possible. And honestly, it's crazy. The mind boggles at all the things you can do with it. So I had to include it, and it's goofy. He looks like he's just ripping down the street. He's got like wheels for feet. He's got this little helmet on because safety first. I don't know if the name Terry Pin is supposed to be a play on something. It's not really coming to me. So if you guys know what that's about, let me know. But you know what? Either way, we're done. That's the last card we have to look at today. So thanks for coming by, my friends. Big shout out to my patrons, and I'll be doing a live stream tonight, so if you want to come talk about the crazy alchemy stuff they're shoving into Magic or anything else, I will leave a link down in the description and here at the end of the video for you to find that channel. Thanks for coming by. See you in the next one.